This is exactly what a robust minor league system is for. Cleveland is targeting bringing Isaiah Thomas back just after the first of the year, but to make sure he gets in plenty of practices and reps, Thomas is going to spend a little time in the GLeague on a rehab stint, reports Dave McMenamin of ESPN. Injured Cleveland Cavaliers guard Isaiah Thomas is getting closer to his return, with 5-on-5 practices and a likely GLeague stint in his immediate future. In the coming days, the Cavs are planning to give Thomas his first chance to get in a court 5-on-5 practice since joining the team following a trade with the Boston Celtics in August. The Cavs are hoping to find a way for Thomas to scrimmage with their G-League affiliate, the Canton Charge, multiple team sources told ESPN. It is unclear if Thomas will travel to Canton or a collection of Charge players will come to the Cavs practice facility in Independence, Ohio, for the run. If you want a day to target for Thomas's return, they play his old team the Boston Celtics, who he would like some revenge upon, on Jan. 3. Just something to. However, he's got work to do before then in terms of convincing team doctors and the front office. He is ready to go. The average fan doesn't realize how little most NBA teams get to practice during the season. Guys work out and get up shots. There are shoot-arounds and film sessions before each game, but with 82 games and travel on practice is a luxury most teams get a couple of times a month in most. It depends on the schedule, and some coaches with veteran teams, the Clippers' Doc Rivers, for example, cancel most of those in favor of more rest. That makes it hard for a player returning from injury to get some real game-like run-in, which is where the GLeague should come in. We see players getting minor league rehab stints all the time in Major League Baseball. This is basically the same thing. Michael Beasley is just like Carmelo Anthony from the left side of the floor. That's according to him, but on Thursday night against the Boston Celtics, it probably looked a little bit like vintage Melo to some. Beasley had a breakout game against the No. 1 team in the Eastern Conference, scoring 32 points on 13 of 20 shooting, adding 12 rebounds and 1 assist off the bench. Those 32 points were also a season high for the No. 2 overall pick in the 2012 NBA draft. At one point, as the Knicks were trying to seal the game late in the fourth quarter, the crowd at Madison Square Garden rained down MVP chants after Beasley hit a mid-range jumper off a jump stop. Michael Beasley on when he started feeling the hot hand January 9, 1989, Al Ianazone at Al Ianazone December 22, 2017. Kyrie Irving matched Beasley's total with 32 points, but New York got the win over Boston, 10,293. LeBron James was mic'd up on Thursday as the Cleveland Cavaliers took on the Chicago Bulls in Ohio. James scored 34 points, adding 9 rebounds, 6 assists, and 3 steals en route to a Cleveland victory, 115,112. Of course, that didn't mean that LeBron wasn't multitasking. Microphones caught James trying to get his daughter, Sari James, some candy as she sat near the Cavaliers bench during the game. The whole interaction is pretty sweet. Via Twitter, I'm not going to rule out that LeBron, a veteran personal brand marketer and Mr. Lifetime contract over at Nike, didn't use the mic'd up situation to his advantage here, but even still it was a wee nice of him. Things have seemed different this season on NBA courts. We've had players never before thrown out of games, like LeBron James, ejected. Others, like Sean Livingston, have been tossed despite lacking a reputation for combativeness. Indeed, the interaction between Livingston and official Courtney Kirkland earned them both a suspension, and was just plain odd. So that's where we are heading into 2018. Referees seem extra touchy, and most of us are looking around wondering if we missed a memo from the league about a point of emphasis explaining officials weren't going to take any crap from players this season. It appears that has players scratching their heads as well, and according to a report from ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski, the NBRA and NBPA recently sat down to hash things out. Present were Lee Sayum, the NBRA's general counsel, and NBPA executive director Michelle Roberts. Via ESPN in a recent 2-hour-plus conversation at the National Basketball Players Association's Manhattan offices, Sayum and Roberts discussed several referee-player issues, including the NBRA's belief that the league office has become too lenient in allowing players aggressive verbiage toward refs. Roberts countered that players are overwhelmingly disconcerted by what they believe is the disrespectful manner with which refs address players on the court. For example, players expressed frustration with referees holding up a hand, like a stop sign, when approached on the floor. Our players also complained about being ignored, told to shut up, told to move, or, in extreme circumstances, hit with a technical, Roberts said. There have been 4 or 5 occasions when a player has gone to say, "Hey, what's up with that?" and the official holds his hand up like a stop sign, like, "I don't have time to talk to you, Lee Sayum told me." That's what they're trained to do. The NBA says officials aren't taught to use the stop sign to de-escalate situations, but an NBRA source told ESPN that it had indeed been a device previously taught as part of the league's training program. "I don't have historical data if there even is any for one technical ejections, but the 201,718 season has to have the most I've ever seen in 2 decades in professional basketball." DeMarcus Cousins has complained that despite of better behavior, he has continued to get techs on reputation alone. For what it's worth, the NBRA says they are all over this subject matter, and are working to try to find a solution to the escalation between officials and players this season. It's unclear whether the league, NBRA, or NBPA will be transparent about any changes the sides agree on, but hope we will see evidence of progress on the court. By the end of his rookie season, it was pretty obvious that the Knicks needed to move on from the Carmelo Anthony era and embrace a rebuild around Kristaps Porzingis. Unless you are Phil Jackson. Unless your goal is to leave the Knicks as a legacy to the brilliance of the triangle offense above all else. After Porzingis blew off his end-off-season meeting with Jackson, there was serious talk about trading him, reports Ian Bagley of ESPN. However, we start this bit of an excerpt from earlier in his story about 2017 and the Knicks with the idea that most wanted to build around Porzingis. Some members of the Knicks organization became convinced in the summer of 2015 that the club was better off trading Anthony and building around Kristaps Porzingis. A little more than 12 months later, that feeling was shared by nearly all of the Knicks decision-makers. Everybody was on board to try and get rid of Carmelo, is how one source familiar with the matter described the sentiment. The feeling in meetings was almost unanimous. Young star Porzingis skipped his exit meeting with Jackson and then general manager Steve Mills over what team sources described as frustration with the drama and dysfunction surrounding the franchise. Jackson and the Knicks then discussed potential trades of Porzingis with several teams in the days and weeks leading up to the NBA draft. Those conversations were painted in some corners as Jackson teaching Porzingis a lesson after the skipped exit meeting, but multiple sources familiar with the matter say that there were members of the organization in favor of trading Porzingis at the time. It is not uncommon for different people within a front office to disagree about a course of action. To use a well-known example, there was a lot of debate among the Warriors a few years back about trading Klay Thompson for Kevin Love, but in retrospect, GM Bob Myers made the right call. However, what was going on with the Knicks feels different. The majority of the front office was ready to move on from Anthony, and Jackson certainly had his issues with Melo, but things got personal with Porzingis and almost set the franchise way back. If Jackson had gotten close to a Porzingis trade around the draft, would owner James Dolan have stepped in earlier than he did and make a change? Fortunately, Jackson is gone and the new management has a plan built around KP that is showing progress. But somewhere in an alternate universe,